This story is titled, My Wife and My Best Friend's Wife Were Going on a Business Trip, but we found out that they were going to cheat on us with their lovers. So we planted illegal substances on them to get them arrested by the police at the airport, me, early 30s. Hey Reddit, I'm in my early 30s and work at a small company called Horizon Digital. We package and distribute DVDs and other media. Nothing fancy, just basic work that's hard to find people willing to do for minimum wage. My name is Lucas Bennett, and I run the whole operation. Over the years, I've found some loopholes in the laws that let us hire people who really need the work. Mostly guys from Jamaica, with a few others from the Dominican Republic and Haiti. They're good workers, but sometimes they need a little extra motivation. That's where Adrian Blake comes in. I watched Adrian for a couple of weeks before making my move. He's not the darkest guy I've ever met, but he's definitely in the top 10. He's not even that tall, maybe 5'9", but he leaves an impression on everyone he meets. He has this permanent snarl on his face and these weird scars with a bluish tint. Definitely not someone you'd want to meet in a dark alley. I'm just lucky to have him on my side. When I first spoke with him, I noticed he speaks perfect British English, which struck me as a bit odd, but I didn't care enough to ask questions. I offered him a supervisor position that came with better pay and benefits, perks the other workers don't get. The grin on his face when I made the offer was absolutely terrifying, but I couldn't argue with results. Productivity went up 30% almost overnight. The company was happy, I was happy, and Adrian was happy. Everything was running smooth as silk. I figured we could keep going for another year and a half before getting shut down for some violation or other. This is my 5th operation like this in 8 years, and it's been good money while it lasts. It's not exactly a career path with stability, so I always stash away cash for the dry spells and usually have another setup ready when one closes down. I can't really remember how I got into this business. I just know I was never a normal 9-to-5 kind of guy. That boring, predictable life wasn't for me. Unlike my brother Ryan, we're complete opposites. He lives for his union job at the power company and likes knowing exactly when his next check is coming. Good for him, I guess, but that's not my style. Ryan and I both married our high school sweethearts. Sounds romantic, but it's really not. He and his wife Megan had twin boys who just turned 16. My wife Hannah and I had 2 kids. Our daughter Clara just got into Stanford, and our son Peter is 17. The kid's trying everything to get into a military academy. He doesn't care which one, he just wants to serve his country. Megan works at an insurance claims office that handles stuff for about 20 small agencies in the area. Hannah never wanted to work, and I'm cool with that. I figure a happy home life matters more than extra cash. Life has been pretty good in our town. I call it Riverside sometimes, though that's not actually its name. It just reminds me of this old movie I saw where everything's perfect, just like here. Life was good anyway, until I decided to grab some office supplies one day. I usually send someone else to get supplies, but I was looking for an excuse to get out of the office. It didn't take long since I know exactly what I need when I go shopping. I don't browse around like some people. I grab what I need and bounce. Oak Ridge Mall is this huge 2-story place with an open space in the middle, probably called an atrium or something fancy like that. I was sitting up in the food court on the 2nd floor, looking down at the 1st floor when I saw them, Hannah and Megan walking together. I guess Megan had taken the day off work. They were doing some last-minute shopping for their girls' vacation. It had taken them forever to convince Ryan and me to let them go to this fancy resort in Jamaica near Ocho Rios. We weren't happy about it and made them promise to stay at the resort. No wandering around the island alone. They were leaving in 2 days. I was about to call out to them when something stopped me. They had stopped in front of Victoria's Secret, which wasn't normal for either of them. I sat back down and watched as they went inside. This was getting interesting, so I got a fresh coffee and made myself comfortable in a crappy plastic chair. 20 minutes later, they came out. I couldn't hear them, but they were giggling like teenagers. Instead of leaving, they sat on a bench outside the store and started taking stuff from the Victoria's Secret bags and putting it in Walmart bags instead. Then they threw the Victoria's Secret bags in the trash, still giggling as they walked away. It took me less than a minute to get down the escalator and over to the trash can. I didn't even try to be subtle, just grabbed the bags and left the lid off. Kind of a dick move, but whatever. I waited until I got to my car to look. They had taken whatever they bought, but left the receipts. Each of them had bought 2 baby doll sleepers. One receipt for $65, the other for $72. Both had paid cash. Hannah never uses cash. She always uses credit cards. This definitely got my attention, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I should give her a chance to explain, though I wasn't going to confront her directly. I'd just give her an opening to tell me about it. The lingerie had to be for the Jamaica trip. The trip Ryan and I weren't going on. I was driving back to work when I saw dark clouds gathering, even though the sun was still shining. I sat at my desk trying to figure out where I went wrong. That's when Adrian walked in. Adrian came in looking concerned. "Mr. Bennett, something seems wrong," he said. "Is it something I should know about?" "No, Mr. Blake," I replied. "Nothing wrong with work or the floor. Everything's fine there." I motioned for him to sit. He was smiling but looked anxious. We sat in silence for a bit. "Where in Jamaica are you from, Mr. Blake?" I finally asked. "From Kingston, but I spent most of my time in the Ocho Rios area," he replied. "Why do you ask?" I paused for a moment, rocking back in my chair. "Got any friends in Ocho Rios?" "Many acquaintances, few friends," he said. "I also know some not-so-friendly people. That's why I'm here now." I reached into my bottom desk drawer and pulled out a bottle of Jack Daniels and 2 glasses. They weren't exactly clean, but they were usable. Adrian didn't refuse when I pushed a glass his way. "Is it a money problem?" he asked as he sipped and smiled. "Yes, $10,000 US, he replied. "Not much, but enough to make me seek a safer place." I noticed I was smiling, and I think he knew it wasn't about his situation. "I feel like Mr. Bennett needs my help," he said. "I'm trying to figure out how we can help each other. Am I right?" I laughed at how he talked about me in the third person. "Mr. Blake, any of your friends or acquaintances? Questionable characters?" Now he was laughing too. "Of course, Mr. Bennett. All of them are." We were both smiling as I filled our glasses again. We sat quietly for what felt like minutes, though it might have been less. "Tomorrow, Mr. Blake," I finally said. "Tomorrow we help each other." He smiled as he got up, and I noticed a gold tooth on his right side, near the back. It looked ominous. That night, we had a family dinner where Clara announced she could start her summer session at Stanford if she left within the week. Hannah wasn't thrilled about it, but she got outvoted. Then Peter decided he wanted to spend a year at the Marine Military Academy in Houston before college. He had previously said no because of the cost, but tonight he was feeling different. Hannah gave me a weird look when I supported Peter's idea, but she didn't say anything. After the kids left the table, I asked Hannah about her day. "Megan and I got the last things for the trip," she said. "Got the cutest flip-flops. We decided not to take a camera since we're worried about losing it. We each got new swimsuits, 2-piece but modest. We're not young anymore, you know." I smiled at how she was chattering away. She was nervous, and she always talks too much when she's nervous. If I let her go on, she might trip herself up. I'd already gotten the answer I wanted. She said nothing about Victoria's Secret, didn't even hint at it. She was still talking, but I wasn't listening anymore. She finally realized what she was doing and shut up. Too late, though. She'd given herself away without admitting anything. I could have confronted her, but it wouldn't have accomplished anything. There was more going on here than fancy lingerie shopping. Hannah was pretty quiet for the rest of the evening. I could tell she was uncomfortable about talking too much. While Hannah was setting up the DVR to record her shows while she was gone, I checked tuition fees and our assets. The numbers weren't looking good. We needed at least $55,000 a year for Clara, and 1 year at the military school for Peter would cost $34,000. I decided to prepay 4 years for Clara and 1 year for Peter, which would leave me with less than $50,000. We could figure out Peter's college later. The kid didn't even know where he wanted to go yet. I gathered all the addresses I needed and prepared letters and envelopes. Tomorrow I'd just need to make a bank trip and some calls. Maybe I was rushing things. Maybe there wasn't a problem. All I had was the mall trip and my gut feeling. Hannah was already in bed when I called Ryan. He always stays up for the late-night shows. "Ryan, you still up?" I asked. "Yeah, Brother Lucas, what's up?" he replied. "Show starting soon?" "Nope, 10 minutes. Talk fast." "Ryan, I don't want to upset you, but has Megan been acting weird lately?" "Don't mess with me, Lucas. What's going on?" "You know, little stuff. Just doesn't seem right." "You mean like those kitchen parties and cooking demos?" Ryan asked. "Maybe. Why are they weird?" Megan and Hannah started going regularly, plus book clubs and card games. "Yeah, so what?" "Megan doesn't read much," Ryan explained. "She hates cards and never buys anything at those parties." I didn't want to say anything, didn't want to risk ruining my marriage. If I accuse her of something and I'm wrong, life would be a living hell. I'm not saying anything until I have more proof. "Did she show you what she bought shopping today?" I asked. "Yeah, swimsuit, sandals, floppy hat. Why?" There was an awkward silence before I finally broke it. Ryan, that guy from high school, does he still work in HR at Continental Claims? Yeah, I think so. Why? Can you call him tomorrow? Ask if other employees are taking vacation at the same time as Megan? Lucas, what the hell's going on? Ryan, I don't know. I just know something's not right. Hannah doesn't have many chances to meet guys, but Megan does. This Jamaica trip seems fishy. Maybe you should talk to Megan. No way, Ryan, I insisted. Whatever you do, don't say anything to her. Okay, I'll call. Show's starting. Gotta go. I slept on the couch that night. No specific reason. I just didn't feel like being in bed with Hannah. The next morning, I closed 2 money market accounts, cashed in 3 CDs, and called Stanford and the Houston Military School to get cashier's checks done. I took what wasn't for tuition in cash, leaving $1,000 in our checking account. Before lunch, I had paid for Clara's 4 years and Peter's year at the fancy military school. As I was leaving the post office, I got a call from Ryan. Lucas, you were right, he said. About all of it. My guy in HR told me Megan's been playing around with an auditor, a guy named Stephen Ward. It's common knowledge at the company. Don't know why I haven't heard about it before. Anyway, Stephen and his friend Warren Nash are taking vacation at the same time as Megan. Damn, I replied. I was afraid of something like that. Can you get some info about these guys? Already got it. Sending company ID photos to your phone. The guy with glasses is Ward. Thanks, Ryan. Hey bro, sorry about all this. Don't apologize to me. It's my wife who got Hannah into this. Ryan, meet me after work at the Cedar Lodge bar. We need to talk. Got it. Adrian was smiling as I walked into my office the next morning. I smiled back but said nothing as Lisa, my secretary, brought coffee. Adrian waited while I downloaded the photos from my phone. 2 minutes later, he had hard copies and photos of each man on his phone. He sat there with this wicked little grin, waiting for what was coming. Can we get down to business, Mr. Blake? I asked. Most certainly, Mr. Bennett, he replied. It took less than an hour to make a deal and settle on a price. He was happy, and I was happy. Ryan might not be so happy when I told him his share of the cost. When Ryan and I met after work, he dropped a bomb on me. He had decided he was visiting his Uncle Greg in Arkansas for an indefinite period. Ryan, that's drastic under the circumstances, don't you think? I asked. I've been awake all night thinking, he replied. I made calls today and verified my suspicions about Megan. If anything, it's too late. Sorry, Ryan. I never realized I didn't know what was happening in my marriage either. What's wrong with us? Why did they do this? How come we didn't see it coming? We sat quietly eating peanuts and sipping warm beer. I ordered a couple more cold ones and smiled at my brother. How can I help, Ryan? What can I do? We're okay, Lucas, he said. I've got a small trailer lined up. The boys and I are going to pack what we need. We should be in Arkansas by the next day. What about your job? You love that job. Hard choice, he sighed. I already called Greg. He says I'll find work easy. I won't have fancy union benefits, but the boys and I will manage. We're taking all our savings and investments with us. What are you telling Megan? Leaving a note saying we went to Montana. She might buy it for a while. He paused. Oh yeah, reminds me. Lucas, you owe me $4,000. What? What the hell do I owe you $4,000 for? Just trust me, Ryan. Money well spent. Better if you don't know more. Will I get it back? Probably not. Crap. I decided to give Hannah another chance to come clean after dinner. The results were no better. She mentioned her cell phone wouldn't work in Jamaica, so she was leaving it home. She told me to assume everything was okay unless I heard otherwise. If there was a problem, she'd find a way to let me know. Hannah spent the evening packing, so I decided to take the kids bowling. There were lots of groans and eye-rolling, but they stopped when I shook my head and drew my finger across my lips. We went to the bowling alley, but we never actually bowled. That wasn't something I wanted to do. It was something I had to do. I didn't know anything for sure, but I felt strongly enough about what was happening to take action. I explained to the kids what was going on. Clara seemed to understand, but Peter wasn't happy. Both were excited about their school situations, especially Peter. He had no idea I'd already set everything up. Clara was ready to leave as soon as possible and was thrilled when I said she could take Hannah's Volvo. She wasn't expecting a car at all. I thought it was the fair thing to do. Peter would be staying with my parents until the arrangements for Houston were finalized. He would probably still be here when Hannah returned, so we'd have to wait and see if that caused problems. The kids could store their personal stuff at my parents' place for as long as necessary. I wasn't sure what I'd be doing. Ryan and I arrived at the departure terminal at the same time the next morning. We didn't talk, just nodded from about 50 feet away. Megan and Hannah were laughing and giggling as they entered the facility together. They remembered to turn, wave, and smile at us before leaving the platform. Ryan and I didn't smile back. When I got to work the next morning, I was greeted by government cars and a few police units. I'd been through this before, so I just tightened my belt and walked in. Lisa was waiting with a smile. She'd seen this before too. The work floor was almost empty, with just a few Haitians hanging around. There were no Jamaicans or Dominicans anywhere, including Adrian Blake. Lisa had already called the lawyers. I spent the next 30 minutes talking nonsense to the government suits. I couldn't tell if they were local, state, or federal, and it didn't really matter. When our legal team showed up, Lisa and I slipped away with no problem. We were having coffee at Starbucks when Ryan called. "Lucas, I heard on the radio that the feds hit your place. What's going on?" "It's okay, Ryan. The company has it under control. Lisa and I are enjoying hot coffee right now. How about your end?" "I took care of things at work and at the bank. The boys and I are packing for the rest of the day. We're leaving tomorrow morning." "Sounds good, brother. Need anything?" "We're fine, Lucas. By the way, I saw a lawyer. Divorce papers are started." "Sorry to hear that." "I think we both knew it was coming. They're serving the papers the day she gets back. I'll be long gone by then. I guess I'll end up picking them both up at the airport when they get home. I'll just drop Megan at your house. That okay?" "Sounds great. I guess they're there by now, all settled in their rooms. Are you sure you don't want to tell me what's going on?" "No way, brother. The less you know, the better. I don't think anything happens until tomorrow. Think about it while you're cruising to Arkansas." After we hung up, I got a call from Richard Sullivan, our division chief, the guy who sets up new operations. Lisa and I were summoned to headquarters in Riverside Heights. Lisa seemed happy, but I was having reservations. I couldn't explain why. I really liked the job. I made arrangements to pick up Lisa the next day and headed home. Clara already had her car packed. I would have liked to go with her, but she insisted she was ready to handle things herself. Under the circumstances, I didn't argue. Most of her stuff was in boxes in the garage, ready to go to my parents' place. Peter was packing almost everything for storage since the military school would be providing what he needed. At least they'd better be, for what they were charging. Dad would be driving him down and visiting some old Air Force buddies in Dallas. Mom was very clear about not wanting to make that trip. I was proud of how the kids were handling things. They knew what they wanted better than I did. There was no call from Hannah, but I didn't really expect one. She had carefully set the stage, saying she would only call if there were problems. The kids and I went to an Italian place for pizza. On the way home, we picked up bundles of boxes and some more packing tape. It was 2 a.m. before I got all my things sorted and ready to move. Dad was coming over in the morning with his pickup truck. It would probably take at least 3 trips, but it would keep the kids busy while I was at work. The next company operation was starting in Fairview. The bigwigs were disappointed when I declined this one, but I recommended Lisa instead. She knew as much about running things as I did, and she was ready to move up. As soon as we left the office, she was on the phone to her husband to relay the good news. Her salary would nearly double. She was one happy girl. I had no idea what I'd be doing next. I got a call from Ryan on my way home. He and the boys were just getting to Arkansas. He actually seemed happy, which made me feel good for him. The kids would be staying with Mom and Dad, and I decided to stay one more night at the house to get all the loose ends tied up. I was almost finished for the evening when the phone rang. "Ah, Mr. Bennett," the voice said. "Nice to see you're home." "Adrian, my friend, where the hell are you?" "Home, of course. Taking care of business as requested." "You have international calling with your cell phone?" "Of course. Everyone here does." "I assume you have good news for me." It was a statement posed as a question. "Most certainly, sir. In fact, things went easier than anticipated. You can rest assured all your problems are taken care of." "Thank you. You're a true friend, Mr. Blake. I only did what you paid me to do." "Why do I feel it's more than that?" "Be careful, Mr. Bennett. Don't want to fall into that trap." We were both laughing for no apparent reason. "Mr. Bennett, sorry to hear about the trouble at work. Hope you survived the repercussions." "I'm fine," I assured him. "I was also curious how you got all your people out." "I have friends in the ATF, Mr. Bennett. I should have let you know, but I decided against it. I was able to take care of all my people. Some of the Haitians were a bit hard-headed, but I think it all worked out well. What are your plans now?" "I think I'll take a short break until I can get a few personal problems worked out." "Mr. Bennett, remember this number and stay in touch. I think I might have something you'll be interested in." "That would be nice. I plan to do that." I still had 2 beers to finish before getting some sleep. It would be 3 more days until Hannah and Megan returned from their vacation. After the first day, I found myself doing redundant things. I stopped to see a lawyer, Glenn Palmer, to find out exactly what my obligations would be if I filed for divorce. I didn't have enough money left for an offshore account or anything like that. I decided not to shut off the utilities, but I wouldn't be paying for anything anymore. My credit rating would take a big hit, but I figured I could handle it. The next morning, Clara left for California in her new Volvo. Her summer session would start in 10 days. Mom and Dad gave her a little nest egg to help her get settled. Peter and Dad decided to take off on the same day Hannah would be getting back. Peter wanted to avoid any unpleasant confrontations, and I thought that was a good idea. It looked like they had a few stops planned, including Memphis for ribs and New Orleans for seafood. Everybody except me seemed happy. I was trying like hell not to wallow in misery. The only thing that seemed to help was beer. Later that night, I got another call from Adrian, unfortunately on my cell phone. "Mr. Bennett, is anything happening at your end?" he asked. "What do you mean?" "The gentlemen in question have been missing for 2 days now. The ladies haven't notified hotel personnel or local police. Did they possibly report to your authorities there?" "Not that I know of. Why haven't they contacted officials in the immediate area?" "My people tell me they seem baffled and confused about what to do. They're definitely not having a good time. My guess is they're afraid that if they draw attention to the situation, they'll expose themselves. I don't know what the proper term to use is, Mr. Bennett. I don't want to offend you in any way." "So they're doing nothing?" I asked. "It appears they're constantly looking for the gentleman, hoping things will resolve themselves. I'm afraid they'll be greatly disappointed." "Mr. Blake, what are you suggesting I do?" "As I see it, there's nothing you can do. You have to wait for them to decide to report it, either here or back in the States when they return. That would be awkward. What local authorities would they go to report a crime that took place in Jamaica?" "Mr. Bennett, I believe you've created quite a dilemma for your wife. I have a feeling she wishes she'd never taken this trip. No matter what she does, she'll be in trouble. Thank you for the call, Mr. Blake. I'm going to sleep with a smile on my face tonight. I will call if anything changes, Mr. Bennett." The morning brought a lot of anxiety. I didn't sleep as well as I thought I would. The first thing I did was make a quick call to Ryan to see if he'd heard anything from Megan. There had been no contact from his wife either. The trip for him and the boys had gone well, and they were all comfortably settled in. Before hanging up, Ryan mentioned he'd be turning off his cell phone for the next 2 weeks. He told me to call Greg's number if I needed to get in touch. It was the longest day of my life. I checked and double-checked the house to make sure I had taken care of everything. I saw the lawyer again and filled out an information form so we could file for divorce without any problems at the appropriate time. I gave him power of attorney to handle the separation and other actions. Just on a whim, I gave him a hefty retainer for possible future repercussions from the Jamaica fiasco. I was a little worried that I might have gone too far. On the drive back to my parents' home, I realized that none of my concerns had anything to do with my marriage. Sure, everything I did was a result of Hannah's infidelity, but the breakup didn't seem to bother me. Somewhere along the line, I'd resolved myself to accepting it. A bit of serenity came with that realization. Knowing the kids weren't suffering great trauma made things a lot easier. I don't know why I didn't feel worse. I felt betrayed, but not humiliated, which was strange because it wasn't what I expected. Peter and Dad left with the rising sun. Peter got to drive the first leg of the trip. Mom insisted on packing lunch, but I secretly think they were looking forward to a week of junk food. I had about 6 hours to kill before the plane arrived from Jamaica. I got some rare one-on-one time with Mom. She was supportive and, just to be safe, didn't say anything against Hannah. They had actually gotten along well over the years. I think Mom was sad to see what had happened. I didn't park the car and go in to help them when they arrived. I simply waited for them to come out of the terminal with their bags. I had to move the car twice, just circling and coming back. "Lucas, why didn't you come in to help with the bags?" Hannah asked as they approached. "It's a damn hassle parking the car," I replied. "I figured this would be easier all around." "Lucas, where's Ryan?" Megan had noticed her husband hadn't come and felt obligated to inquire. "He and the boys are tied up. He told me I'd drop you off at your house in a few minutes." On the way, no one talked for the first few miles. The silence was quite obvious. Hannah seemed occupied looking out the side window, while Megan sat in the back trying to be inconspicuous. "Well, are you going to tell me about the trip?" I finally asked. "What you did, where you went. Did you have anything good to eat? You two are awfully quiet for just returning from a tropical vacation." "It was a long flight, Lucas," Hannah responded. "To tell the truth, we're exhausted. We just want a hot shower and a soft bed." "That's it? That's all you have to say for 5 days? I'll tell you all about it tomorrow, okay?" Since she was back to looking out the window, she didn't see me smiling to myself. The rest of the trip home was silent. It would have been easy to push the envelope a little, but I was having enough fun watching them squirm. Since I hadn't heard anything from Adrian, I had to assume they didn't report the missing men to anyone. I wondered what they did with their luggage. Interesting. I dropped Megan off at their house. 10 minutes later, I pulled into our driveway. Hannah gave me an odd expression when I removed her bags from the car, set them on the grass, and got back into the car instead of carrying them into the house. "Lucas, where are you going?" she asked. "Aren't you coming into the house? What about my bags?" "I have to run right now, darling. I'll call you later." She looked so bewildered, standing there watching me drive away. I would have loved to see her face when she discovered I'd actually moved out. Of course, she wouldn't have a lot of time to dwell on it because Megan was probably on the phone by now. "Lucas, Hannah has called 3 times already," my mother told me when I arrived. "She keeps asking what's going on. I keep trying to avoid answering her. Lucas, you know I'm no good at that kind of stuff. I don't like what happened, but I don't want to be in the middle of it either. You're going to have to talk to her." "Sorry, Mom. Next time she calls, I'll take it." "Did she ask about the kids at all?" "No, she was sort of babbling about the empty house and the problem Megan seemed to be having. I didn't try to give her an explanation. I just put her off." I grabbed a beer from the fridge and got comfortable in the easy chair by the phone. It was only a 10-minute wait for the next call. "Lucas, what the hell is going on?" Hannah demanded. "Can you be a little more specific? What are you doing over at your parents' house? Where are the kids? I would appreciate some answers. What the hell is wrong?" "Clara left for school. She wanted to get settled in so she could take a few summer sessions. Everything's fine. You don't have to worry about her." "Why couldn't she have waited until I got back? What was the big hurry?" "I don't know. I guess she was anxious." "All of Peter's things are gone. Where is he?" "Dad and Peter are on the way to Houston. He's finally getting to go to one of those military schools he's been nagging us about. Since he's going to be gone at least 5 years, he put all his stuff in storage like Clara did." "Why didn't you discuss this with me? I am their parent too. You completely left me out of everything. That is not fair." "Yeah, I know. Life sucks." "What does that mean? You have no reason to get sarcastic. What the hell are you doing at your parents' house? Did you move out?" "Bingo, jackpot, you figured it out." "Yes, I moved out. You have the house all to yourself." There was no quick retort. I don't know how long the silence was, but it seemed like minutes. I waited patiently for her next move. "Megan called," she finally said. "She said Ryan and the twins were gone. He left a note saying they went to Montana. Do you know anything about that?" "Yeah, he told me a little bit." Hannah hadn't mentioned the divorce papers yet that Ryan said would be served on Megan. I could only assume it hadn't been done yet. "Lucas, what brought all this on?" she asked. "Tell me something." "I try to stay out of Ryan's life, Hannah. All I know is he mentioned a guy named Stephen Ward. Do you know him or anything about him?" This time the silence was a lot longer. I waited for some type of response, sure she was thinking that if Ryan knew about Stephen, then I must know about Warren. "Lucas, I'm not feeling too good right now," she finally said. "I'm tired and confused. I need to get some rest and think things over. Can you come by the house tomorrow?" "Sure, darling. I have plenty of time. Oh, by the way, I think you should know I also lost my job. I'm now officially unemployed." A few seconds later, the phone went dead. My mother was not happy about the situation. I was in no hurry to face Hannah, but it would have to be done eventually. I arrived at the house around 10 a.m. the next morning. Megan was there too. "Lucas, we know what you did," Hannah said, apparently designated as the spokesman. "Can you explain it to me?" "Don't be a smartass. It doesn't suit you." I decided not to respond to that. "Will from HR told Ryan and you everything about Stephen and Warren," she continued. "Will told Ryan everything, and Ryan told you. You can't deny it. You can't hide it." "So who is this guy Warren?" I asked. "How come you never mentioned him to me?" "Lucas, you're trying to be cute again. You know perfectly well who Warren is. You also knew Stephen and Warren were going on the trip to Jamaica with Megan and me." Everything she said was accurate, so I saw no reason to argue with her. "Neither one of you made an attempt to stop us from going on that trip," she went on. "You both knew we were going to a tropical island with 2 men and you did nothing to halt it. What kind of husbands react that way?" Things were getting humorous now. Hannah was carefully shifting the blame for the affair from the cheating wives to the indifferent husbands. She noticed me smiling, and her tone immediately changed. "It's not funny, asshole," she snapped. 2 good men are dead now because of you. You could have said something. You could have stopped it. But no, you had to go have them killed. You didn't do it yourself. But we know damn well you arranged it." Did you report this? I asked calmly. What do you mean? When did you realize they had been killed? Who did you notify? No one. We couldn't tell anybody. If we had, then you and Ryan would have discovered what we had done. We couldn't take that chance. So you left Jamaica without informing the authorities that 2 men who were with you had been killed? I think somebody is going to be pissed. Both women just sat and stared at me. I was still smiling. So, my loving wife, what are you going to do now? I asked. We're going to the police station and report it. It has to be done. And pray tell me, just how are the local police going to handle a murder that happened in Jamaica? By the way, do they have bodies or murder weapons? There are no bodies. You were too clever for that, weren't you? I don't know what I ever did to deserve this, Hannah, but you go to the police. Tell them the whole thing. Make sure the report shows exactly why the 4 of you went to Jamaica and what you were intending to do there. I'll need that information for the divorce action. Asshole! Megan took advantage of my comment to chime in. Ryan had me served with papers last night. You knew that, didn't you? You were laughing to yourself all the way home from the airport, weren't you? Yeah, he did mention something like that before he left. I watched as Megan stormed out of the room. I couldn't tell if she was crying or just really pissed off. I stood up and walked towards the door. Lucas, I'm sorry, Hannah said, her voice softening. It wasn't supposed to turn out this way. How was it supposed to turn out? I waited a few moments but got no answer. Hannah, can you at least give me some sort of explanation as to why you did this? I waited a few moments while she gathered her thoughts. The kids were grown, and you were working all the time, she finally said. My life had become drab and uninteresting. Megan had the same problem, and she said she solved it by making a few male friends outside the house. A few male friends? Don't interrupt, Lucas, or I won't be able to get through this. I decided it was worth the chance to hear her out, so I kept quiet. She fixed me up with Warren, Hannah continued. So was it worth it? I asked, watching her squirm a little before answering. Actually, Lucas, yes, it was worth it, she admitted. It was fun and exciting. I can't lie to you, I enjoyed it, every minute of it. Up until I met Warren, you were the only guy I'd ever been with. I would never consider leaving you to be with him, but I always had a good time when the 2 of us were together. So I was just a big joke? It wasn't like that, Lucas. I was not trying to replace you or make fun of you. I was just attempting to make my life a little more interesting. I really didn't need to hear anymore. I turned and walked out the door. I went to Wendy's for lunch. The next day, Detective Kevin Hayes came to see me. He allowed me to drive my own car to the station. I think he did that so he wouldn't have to drag me back later. He did not seem too concerned about me showing up. We talked for 3 hours. I finally called Glenn Palmer, who got everything settled so I could leave. He also got copies of Hannah's statement about the alleged murder. Her certified comments about the reason for the trip were going to be enough for the divorce papers. Detective Hayes seemed baffled. He said they would have to contact the Ocho Rios police and Jamaican authorities before they could arrive at any course of action. He was totally ignorant about the terms used to describe different levels of killing someone and what proof was required for each. He was trying to explain it to me, but I blocked it out. Late that night, I got another call from Adrian Blake. Tomorrow, Mr. Bennett, he said. Tomorrow will be a glorious day. Tomorrow came, and nothing happened until about 2 p.m. when I got a call from Detective Hayes. He was sort of laughing as he talked, which I found unnerving. Mr. Bennett, he said, watch the 5 o'clock local news this evening and the 6 o'clock national news. I think you'll find it interesting. It was a short news blurb, but like Detective Hayes said, it was interesting. 2 local men had been found wandering down a dirt road in the hills, about 60 miles south of Ocho Rios, Jamaica. The men claimed they'd been kidnapped and held for ransom at a goat farm in the mountains. They managed to escape early that morning and make their way toward town, where they were rescued. The national news was basically the same, except they had pictures of the 2 men and mentioned their names. A short while later, I got another call from Detective Hayes. He asked me to come in the next morning so we could discuss the circumstances surrounding the incident. I thought that was mighty generous of him. My mom thought the whole thing was hilarious. I think she even winked at me. I slept well that night. As I went into Detective Hayes' office the next morning, I saw Hannah and Megan being escorted into the same interrogation room I'd previously been in. I was sure they were going to have a lot of fun for the rest of the day. Mr. Bennett, the detective began, I'm not sure you're completely innocent concerning this affair, but I see your involvement from a far different perspective now. He was actually smiling when he said that. I couldn't help but return the expression. As I said before, I'm completely innocent of anything to do with the disappearance of those 2 men. I thought he was going to burst out laughing. Instead, he offered me a cup of coffee. It appears, Mr. Bennett, that Mr. Ward and Mr. Nash made a midnight excursion from their vacation compound to purchase a little local weed, ganja by name. 5 minutes after they left the hotel, they were kidnapped, tied up, and taken on an hour's drive over rough mountain roads. This is all their version, you understand. I sipped the hot coffee that one of the uniformed officers had brought into the office and smiled with a little nod. Both men were stripped of all their clothing and locked in a goat pen that just happened to have bars on the doors and windows, he continued. The next morning, they were informed that a ransom demand for $10,000 US each had been delivered to the ladies that had accompanied them to the hotel. They would not be released until the ransom had been paid. Detective Hayes stopped for a moment and tasted some of his machine coffee. It sucked, but he seemed used to it. Detective Hayes, I said, I don't believe my wife or my sister-in-law had access to that kind of money. Apparently not, he replied. The following day, Mr. Ward and Mr. Nash were told the ransom demand had been dropped to $5,000 each, and this was presented to both Mrs. Bennetts. The coffee was actually tasting a little better by this time. The next day, the price was $1,000 each, and on the day that the ladies departed to come home, the price had been dropped to $1,000 for both men, he said. I can only assume the ransom was never paid. Oh, it gets better than that, Mr. Bennett, he added with a grin. Much better. He motioned to silently inquire if I wanted more coffee, but I declined. That night, Detective Hayes continued, the men conveniently overheard their captors talking. Since the ransom had not been paid, the kidnappers decided they were going to have to kill both of them in the morning. I found it hard to control myself at that point. My host was having the same difficulty. We managed to keep it down to muffled snickers. Luckily, they discovered one of the windows in the hut was unlocked, he went on. In a heroic effort, they broke free from their confinement and made a mad dash for freedom down the mountain with no shoes and no clothes. I swear, if it hadn't been such a serious situation, both of us would have burst out laughing. We took a moment to contain ourselves, then he started up again. Mr. Bennett, neither your wife nor your sister-in-law ever got a ransom demand. Now, isn't that amazing? Is that a question or a comment? Now, both of us were actually laughing, but very quietly so as not to attract attention. Seriously, though, Mr. Bennett, he said once we'd composed ourselves, I'm sure you had some input into this entire fiasco. However, I don't see any reason for us to pursue anything at this end. Well, that's good news, I replied. Can I consider this case closed, or should I be prepared for something popping up in the future? It's closed as far as I'm concerned. Your wife and sister-in-law, however, have a few more questions to answer about the charges they made against you and your brother. Our legal people are reviewing their statements pretty closely, just in case. Hannah and Megan were still in the interrogation room as I left the building. My wife saw me as I walked by and tried to make some sort of gesture, but I pretended not to see her and kept walking. The front page story in the local newspaper mentioned both Hannah and Megan by name. I was sure they'd be getting a lot of questions about that from friends and relatives. I stopped at Taco Bell for lunch on my way home. That evening, I got another call from Adrian. How are things at your end, Mr. Bennett? He asked. Couldn't be better, my friend. I'm very impressed. Thank you. I always do my best, Mr. Bennett. A few days ago, I mentioned the possibility of a position here that might suit you. Do you think you might be interested? I would be interested in discussing it. Fine. There will be a ticket waiting for you at the Jamaica Airlines counter tomorrow morning. Don't worry, it will be a round-trip ticket. Adrian was laughing on the other end, a wicked little laugh. 6 weeks later, I was completely relocated to Kingston, Jamaica. It appeared that Adrian Blake had many friends who had a lot of money that needed investing. They bought an all-inclusive resort facility that had come upon hard times, since 90% of the clientele were from either North America or Europe. They wanted a man of my stature to be the responsible person of authority. Yes, I sold out. I was now in the position of posing as a front, or a shill, so to speak. Although I was required to actually set up and manage the facility, I still reported to a clandestine group who wished to avoid any and all publicity. I was well paid and well compensated. It was an interesting position. I had a lady working with me named Nina, who was wanted by Finnish authorities for the murder of her philandering husband. As long as she stayed in Jamaica, she was safe. She was in charge of recreation events and advertising. Most of the other employees were locals who, for some reason, seemed to have excellent work ethics. Many of them, I discovered, were hired by Adrian Blake. Interesting. There were 3 different restaurants in the facility. A prominent menu item at each was goat in some fashion. Hannah and Megan had been convicted of something somehow related to the incident. Both received suspended sentences. I never even found out what the exact charges were. I heard that Stephen Ward and Warren Nash both accused Hannah and Megan of refusing to pay their ransom. They never believed the story that no ransom demands were ever made. I think those relationships died rather fast. 5 months after relocating, my divorce was finalized. Time passes rapidly when you're having fun. 2 years went by. Clara was doing great at Stanford. Peter was now at Texas A&M on a full scholarship. Hannah kept in touch with them 3 or 4 times a month by cell phone. Megan had tracked Ryan down in Arkansas and had him served with papers to get custody of the twins. A week later, Ryan and the boys were in Montana. Nina and I moved in together. There was an odd excitement about sleeping with a woman who had murdered her husband, sort of like bungee jumping. I had no further contact with Hannah until last week. "Mr. Bennett, I have good news and bad news," Adrian said, having turned into quite the joker. I always had to be on my toes around him. "Give me the bad news first," I replied. "The Silver Star cruise ship arrived this morning, and your wife is on board with a gentleman friend." A chill went up my spine. "What's the good news?" A big grin came across his face, big enough to show his demonic gold tooth. "The Jamaican authorities had her name on a special list. Since we're now using passports for all Caribbean travel, it was easy to flag her arrival. And what exactly does this mean? The former Mrs. Bennett has been detained. Charges are presently being prepared. It seems her failure to report the kidnapping 3 years ago has been considered a criminal offense of some type. A lot of local officials were embarrassed by the whole situation. They seem more than eager to get a little payback." "Damn, Adrian, she didn't really do anything." "I know that, and you know that, but it doesn't make it go away. What is her travel companion doing to help?" "Nothing. When the police explained what happened, he couldn't get back on the ship fast enough. I think he's planning on flying home." Hannah ended up in Kingston, charged with several minor offenses. There were no suspended sentences here. Some low-level U.S. Embassy people tried to intervene, but it was to no avail. She was sent to Port Royal Prison for 1 year. It wasn't fair, but it seemed to be out of my hands. It was 3 months until I got up the courage to go see her. Adrian had arranged the visit beforehand. "Lucas, what are you doing here?" Hannah asked when I arrived. "It's so good to see you. How did you find out about this?" She looked a little thinner and gaunt, perhaps from the lack of makeup and proper grooming. "Hannah, I live here now," I explained, "on the north side of the island. I've known about your problem for a while now." "What? Why didn't you do something? You must know somebody here that can help me." "What would you want me to do?" "Get me out of here, please. You can't imagine what this is like." I looked at her without speaking. I actually didn't know what to say. "Lucas, the guards are forcing me to provide favors for them," she said quietly. "Favors?" "Sexual favors, Lucas. I am being forced, of course, to provide male guards with sexual favors. Do I have to be more explicit?" "No, I think I understand. I'll see what I can do." We spent the next 30 minutes talking about the kids and what they were doing. When I left, I promised her again that I would see if I could help her. I know it doesn't all make sense. I should really be happy to see that witch being tortured, but she was my wife for 20 years, and she was the mother of my children. I explained the problem to Adrian. He seemed a little confused at my concern for Hannah's well-being, but promised to take care of things. As if by magic, Hannah became off-limits to the guards, and there would be no repercussions. I never verified this, but I had Adrian's word, and that was good enough. Processes were started to change her sentence to time served. 2 months later, I drove down to Kingston on the day she was being released and scheduled to go home. As usual, some low-level embassy personnel were taking credit for getting her sentence commuted, but I knew better. I didn't get to talk to her, but we saw each other from afar. She was smiling, sort of, and wearing a powder blue maternity dress as she walked across the tarmac. I never saw her again, and I never intend to.